Back to another edition of NASCAR DFS Preview. I'm Austyn with the Sports Chief, and we're headed to Texas Motor Speedway in Fort Worth, Texas. So we took a break from the All-Star race just because I felt like that was a really risky game to be in. And in terms of DFS, it was just a little difficult. It was too showy, too entertainment-like. It was kind of like doing the iRacing DraftKings thing where we had it there for a little bit. I don't know if even if you did that much research, it was going to benefit you that much. I guess, Kyle Busch is, normally pretty well, or performs pretty well at Bristol, so that was probably okay to pick him. But anyway, I didn't really tune into that one too much. Just wanted to focus on the O'Reilly Auto Parts 500. So my strategies here as of late, which have been history, past performance, have not been a great indicator because I'm not performing all that well. I guess I'm playing in too many tournaments. So this one is definitely more of, I picked better drivers, so to speak. So I looked at guys that could probably get top 10s fairly easily. I wanted to look at the price points and see who could give me the most value rather than worrying hitting a big tournament, because I think that you honestly can play it pretty conservative and you might have the best lineup out there. But to give you a little preview of Texas Motor Speedway, it's a 1.5-mile oval, very similar to like Charlotte, Atlanta. Not really Vegas, but it's still that 1.5-mile track. Kentucky's a 1.5-mile track as well, so that's something to think about. So those drivers that are really good at the cookie cutter 1.5-mile tracks, or you need to look at those guys for sure. I also did look at history. I'm not going to act like, because that really is all we have. We don't have practice times. We don't have anything like that. One interesting thing that I looked at was that the Goodyear tire notes. So if you look at the race page, I believe it's J-Ski, you can kind of tell, like the race page, you can see the tire notes, things like that, what type of tire they're using. And they're actually using the same tire that they used at Kentucky last week and Vegas earlier on in the year. Not necessarily the same as Atlanta or Charlotte or any of those tracks. So look for the drivers that perform pretty well at those events to perform well here. I mean, it's using the same tire. The crew chiefs have a little bit of a history. They've taken notes on that track for sure. So that's one thing to look at. But yeah, that was my main thing, looking at that. So let's go ahead and see what DraftKings has to offer for us in terms of salary. So let's check it out here. As you can tell, let me get to where I have the player search bar. Kevin Harvick starting in 5th is our most expensive driver at 11.3. Denny Hamlin starting in 7th at 10.8. We have 4 guys 10K, by the way. Martin Truex Jr. starting in 10th at 10.4. And Chase Elliott starting in 8th at 10,000. So we have 4 drivers at 10K, which makes it a little easier in terms of getting quality drivers. Normally it's 5 or 6 that are 10K. And if you take notice, your top drivers are the most expensive ones, so that's good. That's finally something we can look forward to. Christopher Bell's always been up the top because it seems like he starts in like 36th every week. Well, he's starting 33rd this week, so they bumped his price down to 9.1. So that is interesting in itself. Kevin Harvick has been he's performed very well at 1.5 miles historically. He's got 3 wins here at Texas, and his average finish is 10.4. Denny Hamlin, I believe, has won here like 2 or 3 times. Joey Logano actually won the Vegas race, and then Cole Custer, of course, won last week in a thriller. That was pretty exciting to see Cole. I was glad to see another driver win. Didn't really expect to see Cole win. I don't think he really expected it either, but it was great to see a new driver win there. And so yeah, Stewart-Haas engines are really hard to beat right now. So, one thing that I'm looking at this week, my biggest stat, which I followed it to a T, pretty much, only like 1 or 2 other drivers, but I looked at their average finishes and where they're starting. So basically, if their average finish is better than where they're starting, I seriously considered them. All of the others, I kind of X'd out. Didn't want to go with them. So, my number 1 pick for this week, and it seems like I picked this guy quite a bit, is going to be Erik Jones. So as you can tell there at the 8.6 mark, Erik Jones is starting in 23rd. So I'm going with Eric Jones. He hasn't had that great of a performance, here as of late. If you click his name here, he's 22nd and 33rd in his last, but he had that third place finish. Eric seems to either wreck or get a top 10, maybe even top 5. His Cup Series average finish at Texas is 9.4. He is the best driver at this track. Now, given that's not many starts, but his Xfinity Series history here is crazy good. He has 6 starts, 3 wins, all top 10s, average finish of 2.2, average finish of 2nd. Eric Jones has this place down pat. And starting in 23rd, average finish of 9.4, the expected value, or EV, as we call it in the DFS world, is really high. The likelihood of him getting 10th is astronomically high. I really like Eric Jones getting that 12 or 13 spot window. I think he could win. I mean, it's likely. Cole Custer won last week, so of course Eric Jones could. He's won before. So I really like that value at 8.6. And that was my favorite value of the week. So there we go. All right, so let's just scroll on down here to the bottom. And like we do typically when I do these videos, we have a little bit more value here. So I'm going to cut it off at McLeod. But Chris Buescher starting in 16th. That's too high of a starting spot. Ryan Preece, 25th, too high. John Hunter Nemechek is an interesting choice. Now, I'm not going to go with him. Typically, I only do single lineups. I don't normally do multiple lineups. But John Hunter Nemechek is in a pretty cool-looking Death Wish coffee. Wait. No. Sorry. He does have Death Wish coffee typically. But he's in the Sit Guard, which is the equivalent of Citgo, I believe now, the oil, which is a cool-looking car. So he's in that car this week, starting in 28th. Historically, he's never ran a Cup race here. I don't believe. Yeah. So his average finish here is 6th in the Xfinity Series, which is pretty good. I don't know how much you can quantify that into this, but the likelihood of him finishing above 28 is pretty high. So I think he is your best option in terms of low-end guys. I'm not going to go quite that low. Here lately, it's not working for me. So, like, in normal situations or other videos, I probably would have went with Corey LaJoie, jumped on it, because he actually got 16th here at Las Vegas in that old tire model. Now, at Kentucky, I'd have to double-check. He got 28th, which is not that great. That would be 8 spots past, where he's starting, but that's still not a great finish, and I'm looking for guys that can get at least top 20s, every single one of them. So, Corey LaJoie and John Hunter Nemechek are great options if you decide to go with the top-tier drivers like Harvick, Hamlin, Truex. Those 3 especially. Maybe more so Hamlin and Harvick, but, yeah, Ryan Newman in 15th, that's a little high for me. McDowell's an interesting option. I don't really consider Suarez. He did get 26, but he's probably not going to get a top 20. Michael McDowell, 34th, Ty Dillon. Now, here's the driver that intrigued me for this week, and it's more of a gut feeling, but it's pretty cool. So, Austyn Dillon in his Xfinity Series career at Texas, he has gotten 11 top 10s and 11 starts. Very consistent. His Cup Series track record here is not that great, but his average finish is 21st. He's starting in 21st, so I'm going to pull the trigger on Austyn Dillon. He's at 6'9", that's a pretty good option, and he's actually been finishing pretty well. He's got 13th, 18th, 14th finishes like that. He's finishing inside the top 20. He could push that envelope this week, and I really like him at that spot. So that's where I'm going, Austyn Dillon in 21st. Now, let me just scroll up here, cut off at Bell there and Custer. So here is my driver, ultimately, that I pick that I think is going to win the race. Now, this is more of a tournament strategy in this pick. So the driver that I'm going with is Ryan Blaney. He's in the number 12 Maytag car this week, starting in 2nd. Ryan has the 2nd pit stall, so Cole Custer, last week's winner, has the 1st pit stall. Blaney's got that 2nd one. I think that's going to be a big plus for him. There's 334 laps in this race, folks, just to let you know. And they also have 9 sets of tires. So they'll be coming down a decent amount. I think this track was actually freshly repaved within the past 5 or 10 years, maybe even sooner. So I believe Goodyear's bringing a tire that's going to wear down fairly quickly. But I really like Ryan Blaney in that track position. Eric Almirola starting in first. He has been performing lights out. He's honestly been performing like a championship driver, maybe in the old style where they didn't have the chase. But he's like consistent and like crazily consistent. As you can tell there, he got 12 top 10s. That might be including like the duels and all-star race though, yeah. But anyway, I think it's a pretty safe bet to think that Ryan Blaney's going to get a top 5. And I think Ryan Blaney, with the 300 and some laps, I think he could lead 150 plus. His Xfinity Series, again, he's got an average finish of 3rd, which is 2nd best all time. Eric Jones even had the best in that too. So his average finish in the Cup Series is 19.6. So that's the one driver I was talking about that didn't meet that value of where he's starting. But he does have 4 top 10s and 10 starts. 3 of those 10 starts he got in a wreck. So you think about that. In races where he doesn't wreck, he's got 4 top 10s and 7 starts, which is pretty good. So even in the Wood Brothers car, he led over 100 laps. So Texas is one of his better tracks, and he's very good at the 1.5 miles. All right, so we got 8,500 to spend, which is still quite a bit looking at that. So again, I'm going to kind of hover in this area. So Jimmie Johnson, historically, is great. He's got 7 wins here. As of late, he has not finished that well, which he's got an average finish of 10th, but it's still, the last few years, Jimmie hasn't been the same Jimmie, and the 7 wins are a little odd. But DiBenedetto, if you're looking for a driver that has finished well in Kentucky and Vegas, DiBenedetto's your guy. He's finished 3rd, and I think he finished 3rd at Vegas. Going off of that, DiBenedetto is an awesome pick. And I wouldn't feel the least bit scared to pick him in a cash game. And he almost qualified for me, but there's another driver that I like a little better, and that is Clint Bowyer. So Clint Bowyer is starting in 17th spot. Clint has been priced around the 9,000 range here lately. And Clint has an average finish of 15.5 here. So that is better than where he's starting. I'm hoping a lot of people kind of fade Clint and maybe go towards Byron or maybe even Kenseth or Custer. A lot of people might be going Custer's way just because of his great performance at Kentucky. But Clint Bowyer's in the same kind of engine program, and he's in the same team, and I think Clint could easily get a top 10 here. Therefore, I'm going with Clint Bowyer just based off of value. That's a great value for a top 10 driver at 7-7. Now, it's going to make it pretty easy to pick my next pick. Highest starting position out of all these guys is Christopher Bell. Second is Tyler Reddick. I'm going with Tyler Reddick. So at $7,800, starting in 24th, I'm going with Reddick. Now, his Xfinity Series career, he's finished 2nd twice. He is wrecked a couple times. But looking at this year's numbers, he, in terms of the Cup Series this season, he's had 17 starts, of course, 3 DNFs. Okay, so we're going to X out those DNFs. And the rest of the 14 starts where he was actually running, Tyler Reddick has finished inside the top 20 in 12 of those 14, which is very, very good. So if Reddick gets a top 15, I am super pumped. And Reddick could get a top 10, as with him and Dillon. And in my past history in picking these lineups, I've done this for years. I tend to pick those RCR guys. I used to pick Daniel Hemrick quite a bit. And he would do okay. You know, he would start towards the back and always get a top 15. Dillon the same way. And they would be priced around this range. And I'm sticking with my old habits where I was winning, you know, quite a bit. So I love Tyler Reddick there in 24th. And that gives us a ton of money. It gives us $10,100. And Truex, we can't get him. And this is where it's a pick and choose game. So Kyle Busch, I've been getting burned by Kyle, and although that's a great option, Kyle's not really running that well. And that's why I think you have to pay attention. If you're going to make a late lineup, pay attention to the Xfinity and truck race, see how he performs, and then maybe pull the trigger on him. Logano actually won Vegas, like we said. Pretty decent option. But I'm going to go with Chase Elliott. Chase Elliott has an average finish of 11th here, but he did wreck last start at Texas. Before that wreck, he had an 8.0 average finish. There we have it. He's starting in 8th, so I think I can get some positive EV. this is what I'm looking at, folks. Blaney's definitely my race-winning choice, but let's go ahead and clean it up. So, most expensive driver we got is Chase Elliott, followed by at 10,000 Ryan Blaney at 8,900, Eric Jones at 8,600, Tyler Reddick at 78, Clint Boyer at 77, and rounding out our lineup is Austyn Dillon. This is one of the more balanced lineups that I've created in a long time. I think you have 6 drivers that could win races. You got 5 winners. Reddick's not there yet, but he's soon to be there. So there we have it. I really love those fantasy points per race. I mean, that's very solid, and none of our guys have finished under 7 top 10s. It's just a well-balanced lineup. So I feel pretty good about rolling this out in a double-up. It's got a little bit of tournament strategy and the fact that Blaney will be picked quite a bit, but maybe I snuck some of these guys in here that won't be picked that highly. So anyway, that's what we're looking at, folks. If you like what you see here, like, comment, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're going to try to put out these every week, especially the points counting races. So apologies about the All-Star race. Just didn't think it was worth even really touching, to be honest with you. Just to have fun with it, you could do it. But I didn't really think there was a whole lot of strategy to it. Anyway, we're also on Twitter at The Sports Chief. So we do things like Song of the Day. We got some sporadic articles on wrestling. Heck, we do hockey, baseball's coming up here soon, so we may have some things for that. Baseball season's going to be really weird, just like with everything else. But yeah, if you like what you see here, also hit that bell notification that lets you know when my videos get posted up. And hopefully we help you take down a big tournament. Hope we expand your knowledge in DFS. And we look forward to seeing you every week. So everyone have a great weekend, great July weekend, and happy race week.